Are we still filming this? Well, I was born and raised in Upper Puna. Well, technically not born. I was born in Gila Hospital. I spent the first few years of my life in Kurdistan, and then I moved to Mountain View, and I still live in the house that I was raised in. I've spent a few years here and there at other places, but always in Puna for the most part. Yeah, I definitely saw it. I mean, like, when I was young in Mountain View, the subdivisions out there, Fern Acres, Hawaiian Acres, like, it was all unpaved roads, and, you know, you would drive like a quarter mile between driveways. Now you can't even, can't drive a quarter anything. You drive 100 feet, you hit another driveway. I think it hasn't been as extreme in like Mauka Puna as it has in areas like HPP or Hawaiian Beaches or Leilani. I remember growing up, my uncle lived down on Beach Road off of Paradise, and he was the only house on that whole street. And now it's like all mansions and stuff down there.
Can't really.
One up here and one to catch the tears from down the side.
I get some powder on my face.
No powder for you. You have to look like you're from Puna. So.
Greasy, dirty Puna people. Well, for me, I grew up in Puna from the time I was about 12. I was from Oahu originally, and I already had family on the Big Island. I had an aunt in Puna, Lanlani, and my Uncle Pully was in Kona side, and I had some cousins and stuff, and we'd come to visit here before when I was younger, and my family decided to move here when I was 12, and so I came, and we moved in Puna to Fern Acres, the very back of Fern Acres, last house on the left. Yeah. When people talk about the old days when you had to walk 4 miles to get home, yeah, we walked 4 miles. Me and my two sisters walked 4 miles back to the last house on the left in Hibiscus Street in Fern Acres. So I had fond memories growing up back there. And then a couple years later, my family improved that house and then ended up selling it and moving down to Paradise Park. So that was the next spot in Puna that I lived. It was Paradise Park on 14th Street. And we moved there when I was about 16. 17, like sophomore year in high school, and so yeah, we lived down there from that point on until I left the islands. After high school, I joined the Air Force, and I was gone for 9 years. And then I came back because it's my home. So I feel that Puna is my home. I identify with Puna, like I identify with rural Oahu when I was growing up over there, and Puna kind of was like going back in time and having that rural life and not too crowded and a little bit more open land. In Fern Acres, when we lived back there, there was almost a mile of just forest around us, and nobody else lived in it. It was just hapu ferns and ohia trees and tango fern. It was really beautiful. It was an important part of my growing up. And then down in Paradise Park, when we moved down there, I started diving off the cliffs down at Coley Point, and fishing that whole coastline. I know the whole coastline really well, and I still walk it and fish it when I can. So yeah, definitely, I love that area. All of that eastern part of Puna is like my stomping ground. I know that whole area really well, and places to fish and dive, and a lot of my friends take me hunting up in the mountains and there. So it's my home, and my family still lives there to this day. So it'll probably always be home for me. It's the place I identify with as my little section of knowledge and place. Yeah, for sure. There's been a lot of changes, and it's definitely noticeable. I mean, from places that you frequent, you run into people more often, like outside places, and, just beach places. You notice the more people there, the more, just as far as just crowds almost. But the roads have gotten a lot more congested. I mean, that's a sure sign of population growth. The infrastructure is barely keeping up. When I was gone in the military, so I had a 9-year gap where I wasn't really home that much. I would come back and visit, and at that time it grew quite a bit. But when I got out of the military in 2005, is when it really started picking up. And I wasn't employed, after I got out of the military, so I had to find jobs, and I started building houses, and it ended up working out really well because the population boom coincided with my getting out of the military, so I walked right into framing jobs. So you know, you talk about all these new houses coming up. Like at the time, it was great because I was just building houses in my neighborhood. I think I was part of at least 6 houses in Paradise Park getting built from 2005 to like 2008, in 3 years. My family built a new house down there. So that, I mean, just that factor of that part of population growth affected me as like financially, because I was able to find work really easily and make pretty good money when I first got out of the military and learn some new skill. And yeah, there's a lot of houses. At that time, there's several houses on every street seemed like getting built. And the traffic picked up. When I was a teenager, I could skateboard down 130, you know, the Kealakahua Highway. You could skateboard right down the middle, and you'd look back and you see a car, and you look forward and you see a car, and you're like, okay, you go to the side of the road for a little bit, wait, go, okay, car's gone, and you can start going again. And you can see the car coming from a ways off. You're like, okay, pretty soon I gotta pull over for this car. Now, you can't even barely walk across the highway. It's just steady traffic all the time. Yeah, and along, you know, if you want to talk about changes along the coastline, you used to have open, just ironwood pine forest along the shoreline, and you could pull up almost anywhere along, you know, Paradise Alakai, that bottom road that runs along the shore in Paradise Park. There was no houses down there. There was like 2 houses on that whole road. You could pull over just about anywhere along there and be able to have a picnic and throw some fishing poles in the water and, you know, just hang out. It was really open and really peaceful out there. And now there's houses all along, fences all along. You can't even hardly get to the water down there. There's like just a handful of spots that you can even access the water. So it changed the way you could gather resources, because all these areas that used to be fishing spots, you couldn't go fish over there anymore. And the few spots you can get are so overfished, which, you know, is another facet of population growth. Like all the fishing, near shore fishing in Paradise Park, it's easily accessible. There's hardly any fish there. You got to go diving and get away from the shoreline, and there's not very many people that dive there. So once you get a little bit away from shore, there's still a lot of fish. Yeah, those are definitely some things. Population, you know, and good and bad. Like I made an income off of it, but then I had to deal with more crowds. So from someone who was living out there, it had pros and cons.